It was the year 1928. Scottish physician and microbiologist Alexander Fleming was trying to find something that could kill bacteria. He was previously an Army Medical Corps captain during World War I, fighting for the British Army, and it was there when he witnessed many of his comrades dying, not because of enemy fire, but because of bacteria and diseases. So, when the war ended, he decided to pursue a career in research and found a way to stop bacterial infections. He discovered lysosome in 1922, which is an enzyme that has some effects against bacteria and can be actually found in your fingernails, hair, saliva, skin, and tears. But this lysosome wasn't effective against all bacteria, so Fleming continued to look for a better method to kill these bacteria. And 1928 was the year he found it. It was actually more of an accident. He was researching common Staphylococcus bacteria when an uncovered petri dish near an open window became contaminated with mold. Fleming realized that the bacteria near the mold were dying. He isolated the mold and identified it as Penicillium genus, which he found to be effective against all gram-positive pathogens, which can cause diseases like diphtheria, meningitis, pneumonia, and scarlet fever. Fleming discovered that it was not the mold itself, but a juice that it had produced that had destroyed the bacteria. He named this mold juice penicillin. And tada, this was how penicillin, the first antibiotic, was discovered. In today's What's Up video, I will explain to you what antibiotics are and how the overuse of antibiotics is leading to the rise of superbugs. But first of all, to understand everything, we have to know how antibiotics actually work. Antibiotics work by blocking vital processes in bacteria, killing the bacteria, or stopping them from multiplying. This helps the body's natural immune system to fight bacterial infection. Different antibiotics work against different types of bacteria. For example, penicillin destroys bacterial cell walls. So this was clearly a huge discovery at a perfect timing. Penicillin was mass-produced just in time for World War II, and many people's lives were saved. Fleming himself received many awards, including 30 honorary degrees, and most notably, the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1945. Many more kinds of antibiotics would be found, and there was finally a way to treat bacterial infections. Antibiotics began to take in many forms, including taking little pills, drinking medication, and even IV drips. The death rates for many bacterial infections drastically lowered thanks to his discovery. Almost everyone who has a bacterial infection would use antibiotics, and it became a huge lifesaver. I was one of them. I was 3 years old when I was introduced to the world of bacteria and antibiotics. I'd caught Staphylococcus aureus, a really common bacteria that about 30% of people carry in their noses. It was a bacteria that would suddenly create boils and cuts and swollen red bumps all over your body. Staphylococcus aureus in your nose is actually not dangerous, but if it goes into your bloodstream, you would be in big trouble. I had to undergo IV treatment for Staphylococcus aureus, and I was administered vancomycin, a type of antibiotic. You might wonder why it isn't penicillin. Well, that is because people have overused penicillin so much that there are many new strains of Staphylococcus that have evolved to be immune to penicillin. I was lucky that vancomycin was there to save me. But the truth is, some strains of Staphylococcus aureus that are resistant to vancomycin have popped up recently and are starting to spread. And this is going to be a major problem for our future. A study conducted surveyed people of what they thought antibiotics could treat. And this result is actually shocking. That's why I want to share it with you. Because 36% of people in 2010 thought that antibiotics can treat both bacteria and viruses, and 21% thought that they could only treat viruses, but not bacteria. Well, this is obviously wrong because antibiotics can only treat bacteria. Even though the numbers have gotten better in 2018, there's still 27% who thought antibiotics could treat both viruses and bacteria. This is a huge problem, as I'll explain later. Here's another study on the estimated US antibiotic use each year. It is shocking, as 13 million antibiotics are used each year on livestock and 3 million on human beings. In total, there are around 17 million antibiotics used every single year. This is another huge problem, as this shows how antibiotics are used in such great numbers and sometimes even overused. The overuse of antibiotics is making bacteria more and more resistant to all these different types of antibiotics. Doctors prescribe antibiotics for different reasons. Sometimes they prescribe it when they're not sure if an illness is caused by bacteria or a virus, or they're waiting for test results. So some patients, they might expect a prescription for an antibiotic and even ask their doctor for it. For example, strep throat is a bacterial infection, but most sore throats are due to viruses, allergies, or other things that antibiotics can't treat. But many people with a sore throat, they will go to healthcare providers expecting and getting a prescription for antibiotics that they simply do not need. This causes drug resistance, which is a naturally occurring phenomenon that can be slowed but not stopped. Over time, germs such as bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi adapt to the drugs that are designed to kill them and change to ensure their survival. This makes previously standard treatments for some infections less effective and sometimes ineffective. Specifically, in the case of bacteria, this resistance is called bacterial resistance or antibiotic resistance, and this is leading to the rise of superbugs. More like these superbugs. Superbugs sound like something in a sci-fi movie, bugs and creepy crawlies that are invincible. But it might surprise you, it is all true except that they aren't insects, they're bacteria. These superbugs, they're silent killers, strains of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi that are resistant to most of the antibiotics, even the strongest ones, and other medical common, commonly and other medications commonly used to treat the infections they cause. There are many superbugs that are starting to cause trouble. We have found antibiotic resistance E. coli bacteria, which normally causes diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach cramps, but can be easily treated. Now there's a superbug for E. coli, and we are in quite a bit of trouble, as there's no way to kill these bacteria. Another superbug is the antibiotic resistant Staphylococcus bacteria. Yes, the exact one I caught, but there is no possible treatment for it, and the death risk is extremely high. And there are many more bacteria that are evolving and mutating, and this is becoming a growing problem. The CDC calls it one of the world's most pressing health concerns. It's especially a problem in low income and developing countries. That's because healthcare providers there often lack quick and helpful diagnostic tools that can identify which illnesses are caused by bacteria and which are not. And many of the areas only recently got widespread access to antibiotics. Lack of clean water, poor sanitization, and limited vaccine programs contribute to the infections and illnesses that antibiotics are prescribed for. CDC predicts that by 2050, superbugs could kill 10 million people a year. Now, the damage has been done. We, humans, have made these bacteria invincible. However, we should never lose hope. Even though our future is grim, we can still take steps towards preventing these bacteria from mutating to becoming even stronger, while hoping that we find a new cure. For example, we should be more cautious about taking antibiotics and always make sure that it is a bacterial infection before using them. We should do our best not to get these infections by making sure we have personal hygiene, wash our hands often, and take vaccines if we can. Let's hope that we may be able to hold these bacteria to bay and find a new cure quickly to stop these mutants. Usually, movies have a happy ending. So let's hope in real life we're able to learn from our mistakes and live happily ever after. Zachary from What's Up, signing off.